And on behalf of Canada's national team athletes, I'd like to welcome you to our annual forum. I'd also like to welcome those who are watching the forum through our webcast. J'aimerais également souhaiter la bienvenue aux personnes qui suivent le forum par le biais du site Internet. Athletes represent our country on the world stage every day. And sport makes a difference in all of our communities from coast to coast to coast. Sport has an impact on our economy, creates health benefits, mobilizes volunteers, engages youth in positive activities, and sustains our environment. And in particular, sport connects Canadians as we celebrate excellence. We have just experienced the highs and lows of the Beijing Olympic and Paralympic Games, while Canadians are also gearing up to host the world at the Vancouver 2010 Games. Our athletes are also preparing to own the podium. It should come as no surprise, then, that sport matters to Canadians and that it features in the current election, the most important public debate about Canada's priorities. Today, we have an opportunity to hear from representatives of each of the national political parties about their sport and physical activity platforms. Le Bloc québécois n'était pas capable de confirmer un représentant. I'd now like to introduce each of the party representatives. From the Conservative Party of Canada, the Honourable Helena Georges, the Secretary of State for Sport and the candidate in the riding of Simcoe Grey, Ontario. From the Liberal Party of Canada, Mr. Roger Cuzner, a candidate in the riding of Cape Breton-Canso, all the way from Nova Scotia. Thanks for making the long trip to see us. From the New Democratic Party, Mr. Liam McHugh-Russell, a candidate in the Etobicoke Lakeshore riding of Ontario. And from the Green Party of Canada, Ms. Grace Yogaretnam, a candidate in Mississauga-Brampton South, Ontario. As the moderator, my job will be to help move us along through the next hour. Two of my fellow athletes will also be asking questions of the panel. After the forum, we encourage each of you to interact with the athletes, the media, and members of the sport community outside in the foyer. So let's begin. We'll start with opening remarks. I ask you to please introduce yourself and your party's sport and physical activity platform. We'll start with Ms. Yogaretnam.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. I want to thank Athletes Can for organizing this event and giving us the opportunity to be here today. My name is Grace Yogaretnam, and I became a member of the Green Party because the party's ideals reflected my own intrinsic values of hard work, self-determination and honesty, fairness, respect, and reciprocity. These are the same values that we find are indigenous to amateur sport in this country, and they are the same values that constitute the backbone of a successful, prosperous, and safe society. Canadian governments today face a variety of public policy challenges: rising healthcare costs, increased crime, environmental degradation, and decreasing economic prosperity, as well as productivity. I think what we need to realize is that many of these challenges are, at least in part, rooted in the loss of social capital precipitated by the breakdown of communities across this country. Today, we know that children under the age of 18, at least 50% of children under the age of 18, are not physically active enough to promote optimal health and development. We know that in the Peel region alone, there's been an increase, a 30% increase in violent crime, and that the cancer rate in Canada is now 1 in 2. Thankfully, we also know that physical activity is the most cost-effective means by which to reduce lifestyle-related illness, that participation in sport builds character, infuses a sense of self-esteem and belonging, identity, and achievement in our children. Amateur sport not only offers kids something fun to do after school or a new way to make friends, but provides them with a pathway out of alienation and into a larger community of hope and excellence. Too often, I think funding for sport is viewed as an afterthought, that governments only attend to once the more pressing considerations of healthcare, economic productivity, and crime are addressed. We in the Green Party believe that funding for sport is funding for healthcare and economic productivity and crime prevention and safer communities. So to this end, we will support high-performance athletes by encouraging a broad-based participation in sport across the country. We will invest in the provision of essential facilities, coaching, and medical support for high-performance athletes. We will invest $500 million over the next 5 years, targeted toward obesity and inactivity. Press for a progressive and practical progression of financial support for sport at all levels, again, across the country. Reinstate fitness testing in the national schools, as well as institute a daily physical activity requirement at the primary, secondary, university, and college level. And finally, we will commit to promoting the Olympic movement's commitment to Agenda 21 for sport, to ensure that not only are Canadians becoming healthier by participating in sport, but that they are, in doing so, leaving behind a healthier planet for the next generation of Canadian athletes to inherit. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Yogaretnam.